Okay, so I got the recording started. All right. Okay, we're going to get started. So welcome everybody. And for those that are waiting for the recording to be sent, thanks for registering. And we're going to get started here. So we're going to be talking all about Partner Up and how it got started and the whole kind of like, oh, how did this all happen and how did this morphing happen? Hello, Elizabeth.
Sorry, one sec. Hi. I'm just
Okay,
going
we're
to
just
mute myself for a second. Sorry.
okay. And so this journey with the Partner Up started probably about 8 years ago. And it's been an accumulation of everything that I've learned throughout my entire life journey. And so it's about sharing what I've learned and so to kind of like step backwards, I'll bounce around a little bit, but back when I was a little kid, I was not wanted. So because I was a girl. And so I did all of these man things. And of course, I never understood why, because it's not like they told me, oh, we didn't want you. It's what I found out, many years later. And so that taught me how important it is for us to realize that we have absolutely everything that we need right here inside of us, and how amazing we are to be able to read the environment when we're just like a little tiny baby that is so helpless, and yet we are able to figure out everything, and we start morphing into what we believe we need to be in order to fit in or be loved or have worth. And so we often never even give any credence to all of those little beliefs or things that came into play way before we were even walking or doing anything like that. But those all shape our lives, and then it gives us the experience that we have moving through our life. And because of that knowledge and awareness and how powerful it is really motivated me to start sharing what I have learned. And so Partner Up is really all about that. And of course, having a connection is extremely important to me. And when I can feel what it brings to my life, then I know everyone else should have the opportunity to experience what I'm experiencing, because it doesn't get any better than that. And luckily or unluckily for me, in 1998, I had what they call a moderate traumatic brain injury. And my life as I knew it was done, over. And in the successive journey to try to get my life back, one of the things that I wanted to get back was the level of awareness and connection and intuitiveness that I had before the accident. The accident pretty much wiped that out. And up to that point, I also believed that, maybe you just have a gift. And so now the gift is gone and you can't get the gift back. And of course, everybody I talked to, they kind of believed in the idea that it's a gift. Well, so this whole journey, again, has taught me that it's not a gift, it's our birthright and it's there. And sometimes you just need to find it, dust it off, and start using it to realize how amazing you really are. And so in order to get mine back, it took a lot of trial and error and trying this on and trying that on. And through that whole process, because I'm this little scientist person that likes to figure everything out, I come up with a way that I can help others go through that same steps to get where they want to go, so they're connected energetically to themselves and to the universe and to everything around them. And so Partner Up is all about sharing that. So whether you have a horse or a friend or a dog, it doesn't really matter, because what you're going to be learning here is going to be so life-changing and so inspiring that there's going to be no looking back. And when you finish the 60 hours here, you're going to be looking at yourself and thinking, what took me so long to get here? Because this is an amazing journey, and I'm so pleased to be able to share the parts that I am doing. And so, yeah. And so I'm Mona, because I never introduced myself. Anyhow, it doesn't really matter. Okay, all right. And so my little keyboard doesn't work. And so this is me back in the day before brain injury. And I was part of the Gold Rush Trail ride, riding from New Westminster to Barkerville. And so I have to tell a little story about my mare lady. So I picked her up for $150 at an auction. And she was a 7-year-old unbroke broodmare. When I got her down to New West, I knew why she was a 7-year-old unbroke broodmare, because she bucked like the dickens. And I still have all the scars on the inside of my legs from my cowboy boots coming down up against the stirrup leathers and stuff. So I gave up on the saddle very quickly and just started riding bareback. And so I rode bareback from pretty much New Westminster all the way to Barkerville. And yeah, and so this picture is kind of really important, because it's about where I was. And then the brain injury took all that away, and I couldn't even ride because I didn't even have the balance. And so my journey and my desire to give myself the best life I could give myself, I am now, it might have taken me 21 years or whatever, but I am back riding. I ride in a bareback pad, not bareback yet, but in a bareback pad with no stirrups. And so, yeah, so what I'm sharing is pretty amazing stuff, and it took quite a bit of digging to find and learn what I want to learn. And so Partner Up, the whole premise is based on trust, honesty, acceptance, and willingness. And so I look at those as the 4 cornerstones to a foundation for us as a human. And this foundation is something that no matter where we want to go, it's solid enough that we can continue building on it. And it's strong enough that it gives us the confidence to know that no matter what, we've got ourselves. And so honesty is all about our ability to look inside and be honest and not feel bad, not want to change it, not judge it, not anything, but just take that look and see what we're bringing to the table. And acceptance is about seeing that and accepting it. And that doesn't mean you need to think it's you don't want to change it, but it's about accepting where you are in this moment, because in reality, all we have is this moment. We don't have the past moment, and we certainly don't have the future moment, because that hasn't come yet. We only have this moment. And as human beings, we seem to get caught up all the time in thinking about something in the rearview mirror and thinking about something in the front windshield, when really all we have is right here. And so when we come from a place where we're functioning with honesty and we have acceptance, we're able to develop self-love. And that's not a negative thing in any way, shape, or form. and we learn how to nurture ourselves. And when we start doing that, everything changes within us. And then that allows others, whether it's our horse or a dog or a partner, to trust us because they are sensing and feeling our congruency. And once they have trust, then they become engaged into wanting to connect with you. And that's where the willingness comes in. And so from your side of the fence, with the honesty acceptance, when you feel the trust and you feel the willingness, then you start to want to reach towards developing a relationship and moving towards that as well. And so then that becomes like the two-way street philosophy, because now both parties are equally engaged in making this relationship the best that it can be made, because they see the power in it, they see the safety in it, and they know that together they're stronger than singularly by themselves. And so that's what the logo is all about and what it represents. And yeah, that's my partner up. And so great partnerships happen when all feel seen, heard, felt, and understood. And a lot of times these get said and people don't really know what they mean. And so in order to feel safe, you have to have trust. And in order to feel safe, you have to know that you've been heard, seen, felt, and understood. And so all of these come apart, and especially if we're talking about the horse, by our mannerisms, our energy, our way of movement, what we're doing. And so often, because we're in the human realm all the time, we rely on voice, we rely on someone to tell us.
This meeting is being recorded.
Yeah, I am recording. And so anyhow, really important as we start moving into the animal world, that we really start getting a handle on who we are and what we bring to the table, because everything about us sends a message. And that message might not be actually what you want to send. And everything that you want to do, because that puts you in your head and not in your body, may just get you getting the wrong reaction from your horse or from other people, but you never really understand why. And so Partner Up, of course, is all about helping you get to where you need to be. And so in the course, with what I teach, the first part 1 is called the mind connection. And it's called the mind connection. And we start with it because it is, from my point of view, the most important part of everything. So our minds are so powerful. And if we're not careful, they can fence us in. It can give us fences. And in reality, the entire universe, the entire everything is absolutely open to us. We only start losing that when our belief system or our fears or our doubts or start interacting or getting in the way. And so right now, I guess in the last 2 years, I've seen more buzz about mindset than I have for a very long time, and perspective. And so again, perspective is a really important thing for us to think about when we're thinking about mind connection, because two people can see the same thing, but both will have a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And so then it's really easy for us to get into judgment, because then we want to say that I'm right and they're wrong. Well, as soon as we get into that place, well, now we're no longer open. We're no longer receiving information because we've already decided something.
Mm.
And so throughout this whole mind connection, we want to remember that we want to stay really open, because staying open is where we continually get information. And then we're continually able to feel it and deal with it and all of that. And so in order to do that, first off, we have to start learning about who we are and why we are the way we are, and what our beliefs are, what our frame of reference is. And none of these are done from a judgment point of view, because every single person has their own unique being. And that's to be celebrated, because that's how we become powerful, is by harnessing all of that magic from all of the people around us. And so part of what we do here is, as we start pulling apart the pieces to look within, it allows us to also start seeing outward in a different way. And that helps increase our awareness. And so from there, we move into mindfulness. And mindfulness is kind of not hokey pokey stuff. It's really about reminding yourself continually to be present. As humans, we have a really bad habit of doing one thing and thinking about something else. And that divides us. And that means we're not congruent. So if you're making your canned tomatoes, you really should be focusing on the canned tomatoes and focusing on how it feels, the joy that it's bringing you, all of that. If you start thinking about all the other things that you have to do, now the canned tomatoes becomes a chore. And now it's something that you're trying to get through instead of enjoying. And we need to learn how to enjoy as many moments out of every day as we can. And so being present and mindful are probably the most important tools you can start to incorporate into your life, because that's where joy comes from. That's where it starts to manifest, not from letting your brain drag you off somewhere else. Because there's a reason why you wanted to can those tomatoes in the first place. And so often we lose sight of that because of other things where we let our mind drag us. And so with all of what I teach, not only do I teach information, but all of the little tricks of the trade that I've discovered that really help you. So I share all of those too, because there's no sense just knowing about something unless you have the tools to get it going how you'd like. So those are all in there too. And so from there, we move into energy and congruency. And that's one of my most favorite parts, actually, because we are just these vibrating sacks of energy, like put in a human shape. And that energy can change depending on where you are, your thought processes, how you feel, the people that you're around. And so often we don't give any thoughts to any of that. But when you do something with your horse, as an example, and your horse spooks at something, and then you get worried or concerned, the two of you had a shared energy connection. And so the two of you will remember that same event. And because of the shared experience and the exchange that your bodies did without you even being aware of it, both of you will remember that event way longer if it had only been a singular event, because the horse's body will continue to trigger your body as your body will continue to trigger the horse body. And so it works the same with different friends. And so it's something that, as we get more aware of, we start to realize how powerful it is. And then we get to a place where we actually start to feel the energy. And so it's not something where we just go, oh, I don't know, I just felt good. You start to recognize where that's coming from, and you want to start gravitating there because of what it brings to your life. And then, of course, you need the tools to learn how to bring that into your life on a consistent and regular basis. So that's all in there too. And then from there, we move into humans and horses, because horses are so congruent and they are so in tune to energy that when we wonder, oh, I wonder why that happened. Well, the horse doesn't really need to wonder because it's got it all figured out already. We're so far behind in that realm. And so this whole time frame that we spend here is all about learning how to allow the horse to teach us what our energy is saying to the horse, and then to be open enough and with no judgment, only love, we play and we're curious and we try to change it up so that we get the reaction that we're looking for, the whole time realizing that it has nothing to do with the horse or the other person or the dog. It has everything to do with us. So where we're at is a reflection of what we get back. And so, yeah, so I really like this part, and it was a lot of fun. And you learn a lot about how you've been going through the world and never even really ever thought about it because you've just been so busy doing. And then, of course, as we go, so everything that you learn in the first hour, we keep building on it through the whole 60 hours, because like anything, if you don't practice it and you don't put it to use, it's going to go, oh yeah, well, that was kind of cool, but then it just drifts off to the wayside, and that's the end of that. So everything is so you keep using it. And so after every lesson, there's homework. And the homework is a really important part because that's where you get to play. And that's where you're going to learn the most about yourself and the outside world, if you want to call it that, in your horse, because your horse is going to be so good at telling you everything that you need to know. And so the whole next part that we're talking about now is our horse. And so when you want to have a relationship with something, typically humans, we think, okay, well, we're going to buy a dog, we're going to buy a horse, or we're going to make a friend. And we're still busy looking at everything through our perspective. And we haven't really got to a place yet where we start to see everything through their perspective. Because until you see something through another's perspective, it's really hard to build a relationship, because you need to have that way of relating. And so we start learning all about horses and the predator-prey scenarios and all of that. And then we start really digging in. So how does a horse see? And how does that apply to what we go to do with our horse? And does it explain certain behaviors? And how would we be behaving or reacting if we had that kind of vision? And so when we start exploring all of these different things, quite often we come away with a completely different mindset. And so as an example, a lot of times when people are riding and their horse arches its neck and its ears point forward and its head goes down and it rolls its head to one side, people start to hang on because they're anticipating that their horse is going to spook. And so in reality, the horse is trying to see what it needs to see. Now, if the human didn't hang on and signal to the horse that this is something to be concerned about, the horse 9 times out of 10 is not going to spook. They may move a little bit, but it's not going to be anything big. But as humans, we don't understand what they're trying to do. We think that it could be a bad thing, so we go to hang on, and so we add to that energy field, and then we create something worse. And then we convince ourselves that when the horse's head comes up, this is a bad thing. And so this is why we start learning all of these things, because a lot of our beliefs and our patterns we're going to find are probably not very correct. And so this gives us a big chance to try another view on for size. And so we do the same with hearing and smell and touch and taste. And yeah, and when you start learning about how far away they hear or how far away they can smell things, 4 kilometers is a long way to detect human scent. And so sometimes the things that could be setting your horse off could be a memory from a scent that you have no way of, you can't smell it, but they can. And all of these things sometimes create what people start labeling as behavior issues. And really, they're not. We've made them into behavioral issues by our reaction to it. And so, yeah, we spend a lot of time there. And this is a favorite part for me because it's how, when, like, I'm very empathetic and I feel everything. And so it's a really good way to try to get other people on the empathetic side, trying to feel what their horse feels by understanding it more closely. And then horse communication, I've been doing that for 64 years. I've been doing this forever. And so as a real little kid, I could feel everything. And because I was a curious George, I wanted to be able to visually see what I could feel. And so through the years, I began to identify the most subtle of things that are being expressed and being able to match them to what I was feeling and being able to validate it. And so what I'm teaching in here, you're not going to get anywhere else, because this is like really down to the fine-tuned nitty-gritty here. And so I split it all up. We spend quite a bit of time just on the eyes. The eyes are extremely expressive, as the probably 6-inch area all the way around the eyes, and the little puffiness that shows up here, the little lines that show up there, they all mean something, and you can learn so much. And so I'm teaching you how to do it the opposite way. So by giving you everything that you need to see visually, now you can start checking in and seeing what you're feeling and start trying to match those up, because we want to get the ability to be more in our bodies than in our heads. And so this is how we start doing this. So I fine-tune absolutely everything. And you're welcome to send pictures of your horses or do whatever, and we can just discuss those and help you out with all of that, because this is probably some of the most important stuff that you're going to be learning visually, because that's how you're, like I said, going to reconfirm that you're on the right track. And then from there, we move into part 2. And part 2 is all about fear. And fear has a really big negative, whatever people, no, I'm not afraid. Well, if you're breathing air, you have fear, because they go hand in hand. So if you wake up and you worry about what you're going to wear, or you wonder what somebody's going to think, those are all fear-based things. They may be small, they may be trivial, but nonetheless, our body has a physiological response. And over time, these responses wreak havoc on our nervous system. And so we really have to start to learn how to identify all of the different components that go into it. Fears, doubts, trauma. We need to understand our nervous system. We need to understand how it works, why it works, all the components of it. And because without that understanding, we're never going to be in a place to be able to make a difference for another fellow human or a horse or a dog or anything. We have to have the full grasp of this before we can help anyone or anything or ourselves. And so I never knew about the vagus nerve, but when I got PTSD and I had to figure out how I was going to kick that dude to the curb, well, I needed to learn a lot of stuff. And I can tell you, I think the vagus nerve should be taught to you in high school. It should be something that is on everybody's mind every single day. It is the most important nerve in our entire body, as far as I'm concerned. And there's all sorts of things that we can do to improve it and to improve the tone. And in doing so, we totally change all of the things that are affecting us, from depression to anxiety to PTSD to stomach digest to chronic IBS. Like it's just when you start learning, you're just floored. Like, well, how come I don't know about this? And so we spend a lot of time on that. We move into fascia because fascia is hooked to your vagus nerve. Like every single physiological response that we have creates tension or constriction. And the more tension and constriction, the more none of our nutrients get circulated around how they should. So the poorer off we get as time goes on. And that's why sometimes people, by the time they hit their 40s, are starting to notice all of these different things going wrong in their life, and they just can't cope the same, and they don't have the same energy, and they don't have this, and they don't have that. Well, it can all be traced back to the vagus nerve. And yeah, really big ticket item. And so, of course, now we're learning all of this stuff, and we're learning about our thyroid and all of those little organs that help with everything. So now we start learning how we're going to help our horse with its fears through the understanding that we've just learned ourselves. And then we're going to start figuring out how we're going to help ourselves. Because with anything, it's always easier to help somebody else than to help yourself. So we take the easy road first, and then we're going to come back and really do the digging to figure out how we're going to help ourselves. And then we spend a lot of time on all of the modalities that I found that have been so amazing and have worked with every single person I've ever shared them with, because you need time to try them on, you need time to practice and play with them. And as with everything, you have to make it your own. So just because I give you a tool and it looks like this, that does not mean that's how you need to use the tool. So a lot of things I've combined, a lot of things I've made my own. And that's what you need to do, because when you make something yours, you're far more likely to be inclined to use it, to play with it, and to make it part of your life. When you're borrowing something, you're always back in your head, because now you're trying to replicate what you borrowed. And so we want to really get away from that, because we want to start making everything ours. And then you got to remember, we're still building on our very first lesson and working our way up. So now we're at a place where we're going to dissect ourselves even further, because now we're going to look at what an anatomic connection is and why it matters. And in doing that, we need to start looking at ourselves, because every misalignment we have creates a constriction or restriction. And that then goes down because of energy to whatever we're around. Our horses, fellow humans, our dogs, our cats. So typically, if you have chronically a sore hip and you're not adjusting it, you're not taking care of it, over time, everything around you will start to have a sore hip because of that energy flow. And especially when you're in close contact with it. And horses especially, because we actually sit on them. And so really, really important to start recognizing our part. And then, of course, you know, if I'm going to get you to figure out these imbalances, I'm certainly going to give you ways to correct them and ways that you can bring yourself back into alignment. And then through that whole process, you're going to learn what it feels like to move in an anatomically correct position, because most of us have been just moving and not paying attention. And so it's about getting from point A to point B. And over time, every single injury we've had has created some sort of restriction or constriction. And we have just learned how to live with it and keep moving forward with no thought given to how it's changing our energy flow or how our body moves or our fluidity. And the best way to give an example of this is when you're young and you go skidding on the ice and your body flings backwards, it just, fluidity takes over and it flings you forward. You don't fall down, you don't crash, you don't nothing. You just right yourself and carry on. You don't have a neck that's out of joint. You don't have a back that's snapped. You don't have any of that. But now, as you get older and you start having these restrictions, that same skid probably means you're going to land on your back, crash, your neck's going to hurt, your back's going to be out, your hip's going to be black and blue, because you've lost your fluidity because of the rigidity. And so that's kind of how that all ties together. And so then we move that into how our tack can impact our horse's movement and what we can do about that. And then we start looking at how the horse actually moves. So then we start tying that in to how we actually move. And so how do we use that knowledge to give the horse what they need to be able to move freely, so at the same time we get the same thing that allows us to move freely? Because when those two things happen, you innately know when to ask. And if you're not asking at the right time, you're always going to get a no from your horse, because they cannot perform what you're asking because you're asking at the inappropriate time. And so once you get the grasp on that and you start asking when the horse is capable to say yes, which means you ask them to turn to the right before their right leg has left the ground, so that when they go to move, that leg's already up. You don't ask them when the leg on the left side is up. So little things like this. So as you start, then you become very fluid, and you don't have any of the fights with your horse anymore. Your horse is more willing to do what you're asking because they're able to do it. And so once we get all there, now we just kind of tie it all in and we bring that all together. And so there we go. And so then we kind of like delve into like little tiny sections of ourselves. And we look at, the straightness theories, how they work out there, how to apply them, and how to make that work with our physiology. And then every single thing that I've ever had wrong with me is here. Pelvis, psoas, the muscle imbalances, core strength, shoulder, knee, IT band imbalances, fascia adhesions. So they're all here because we're going to talk about everything I know about in great detail, and with all of the things that you can do to fix these for yourself. Took me a long time because I didn't know half of this stuff, and I didn't know how to fix it. And I spent tons of money trying to find people to fix stuff for me. It's very difficult for people to fix things for you. They can help you, but pretty much the work is your own. And so I'm sharing how you're going to go about doing this, and tried and true things that actually work to get you where you need to go. Because we all want to be able to do stuff like when we were a kid, whether that's run or play or laugh or do whatever. And getting old doesn't necessarily mean that has to change. Okay, and so then there's books that I think are amazing books. And so if you've never met Eva Detko, she's somebody well worth looking up. She is so amazing. So everything that she teaches and does is all about energy and creating the health that we want by eliminating the trauma responses in our body. And the Sovereign Health Solution in that little book's $9 on Amazon, but the back has so all of these resources that she's put together over her lifetime. And then you have free access to all of those resources. And so if I could recommend one book that you went on Amazon and bought, it would be The Sovereign Health Solution by Eva Detko. Like, that is a stunning book. And Frequency, The Power of Personal Vibration by Penny Pierce. Again, I can't say enough about what she's put in that book. So in that book, it's broke down step by step so that you can identify where you are at today by the stages and the different things that are present in your life. And then you know when you're moving to the next stage, because you can identify with the different things that are happening and changing in your life. And so for anyone that's really not familiar with energy, this kind of gives you like a step-by-step guide all the way up the whole 9 levels to your right at the top where the high energy masters are. And it's written so you can understand it, and it's just step by step. I absolutely love it. The Healing with Vibration is pretty good. You know, for the stuff that Lloyd Burrell has created, I'd say that's probably some of his best work. And so then we're going to talk about Marissa Peer. So she's another amazing lady that has great insight into trauma, the power of the subconscious brain, what it takes to try to reprogram our subconscious brain. And again, she gives away so much stuff for free that, of course, and I like free. So she's another great person to kind of like Google and look up and yeah, put in your
What was that name again?
Marissa Peer. So it's Marisa, and then her last name is Peer, so Peer. And then there's 10 Zen seconds by Dr. Eric Maisel. And so this is just something that you can read and flip through, but it really kind of brings you back to the present, continually reminding you that everything that we need is right here. Okay, Stacy. See ya. All right.
Thank you.
Okay. And so the truth is that our finest moments are most likely to occur when we are feeling deeply uncomfortable, unhappy, or unfulfilled. For it is only in such moments, propelled by our discomfort, that we are likely to step out of our ruts and start searching for different ways or truer answers. And so I really, really, really like this, because no matter how bad we feel or how bad things appear, if we take a step back, we have an opportunity for some of the best learning we're ever going to have. And so, yeah, and this means a lot. And it's how I've gotten through so much of the stuff that's come down the pipe for me, is by taking that step back and figuring out what I'm going to learn from this, and not letting it eat me up and destroy me. Like, what am I going to learn from this? And the takeaways have always been so powerful. And now Alan Watts. So if you know about Alan Watts, you have to love Alan Watts, because he is somebody else that just says it. He says it how it is. He, yeah. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of things that he talks about are funneled down from the universe. But yeah, another really great guy. And as we travel through the program, there'll be more great people that I introduce, but these are the people that I thought were noteworthy for the introduction. And so, as with any big introduction, we end with horse pictures. And so the whole idea behind the horse pictures are that quite often when we're on a journey, we get to the end of the journey, but because we have no way of monitoring our journey, we've just become a new person, but we haven't really realized it because it's just been little bit by little bit by little bit. So really important that we have some way to measure where we were versus where we ended up. And so these same 6 pictures show up at the beginning and then they show up at the very end. And so the idea is the same. As I flip through the pictures, you have brief moments just to look and you write down what you see. And there's no right or wrong. I mean, if you see a rhinoceros or an elephant, well, so be it. That's what you see. Like, you know, the idea here is that you don't make this stressful. You just first glance, what do you see? Because when we come back to this at the end, that's where you're going to see where this journey has taken you. And so we're going to go through the pictures now, and you get probably about 30 seconds with each picture. So first picture, and I'm counting. Elizabeth's running for a pen.
I just see the one, all I see is the first horse with some grass in his mouth and his ears forward. Is that the one I'm supposed to see?
Absolutely, yeah.
So what I see is that he just was chomping away and all of a sudden something brought his attention and he just stood up. Like, what the heck's going on over there?
Yep, yeah. And so write that down, Marty.
I'm so not a horse person.
It doesn't matter. You're gonna just notice so much.
I see a horse out playing in the field, loving their new hairdo.
Good, good. Okay, next.
Is it going to come up on my? I hope it comes up on my side. Oh, well,
Is it
oh,
there?
he's having a blast. He's partying. It's a party time.
Okay.
I think he's gonna
Alrighty.
fall. I tried to drift, it didn't work.
Oh, we don't know that yet. We didn't see the next picture.
Okay. All right, this one.
Oh, it looks kind of sad.
I think he looks controlled and being he's controlled in he's being aware of, I want to say partner, but the human, I guess. That's what I think. But
Okay,
you
then
know.
write that down. Write that down. Really important.
Very collected.
Okay, next picture.
I wish I could make these bigger. Oh, come on. That just makes you want to cry. I mean, that's so beautiful. You were talking about the bear and the colt?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. They are having a hoot. Talk about a proud mama and a happy little baby.
That's exactly what I wrote, is proud mama.
There you go. Yeah.
All righty, so the next one.
They are You mind if I speak out loud? I'm just like, or am I
No,
just supposed
no,
to?
no,
Okay.
that's fine. Yeah.
Um, they are. What are they doing? Tails up. They're checking things out, whether it be something in their environment or each other. But they're kind of I'm proud. I guess maybe yeah, they're putting themselves out there. So they're just like showing who they are and whether they're competing with each other or something that's yeah. Look at that as they're looking proud. That's what I would say.
Okay,
I mean,
write that
they're looking
down.
proud because they want to look like they're protecting themselves. I guess maybe that's
I see the darker horses hanging out with his more flirty and popular friend.
Yeah.
See?
probably yeah. But
Like, oh
actually,
God.
you know what? You're probably close. You look pretty close to the truth there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, now we have this guy.
Oh yeah, he's Mr. Stud, and he's like, I'm taking her on. That's what I used to look like every day. Okay, sure. I didn't mean it's like in my dreams. He's showing that he's going to take the chick on, or he's either going to defend his herd.
Okay, all right.
I definitely wouldn't walk up to that horse and try to put a halter on him.
You wouldn't, huh? Okay, so now, are there questions from everything that we just kind of like ran through at a great rate of speed here?
So many thoughts running through my head. I'll need some time to kind of organize.
Okay, okay. Do you have anything, Marty?
Well, I'm just going through my notes and I'm going alignment restriction, energy restriction. I mean, I know that this is something that I'm learning through you is energy. And that's what's great about using the horses because they're such a recipient of our energy, positive, negative, neutral. And I guess I don't know if it's a question, but the pains that we feel in our body, I never thought of it that before that, like the fact that a horse can feel a fly on his back. And if we get on our pony that we've rode forever and got a sore hip or shoulder, or it's going to affect our physiology. So, but the idea that it affects our relationship with people around us, that's kind of new for me, I guess.
Yeah, 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 yeah. And I've seen quite a few situations, and you probably have too when I draw it to your attention, but when people get old, how they start to look the same and they start to move the same and they start to almost look the same, that have been together for a really, really long time.
Mhm.
Is that the
And-
same concept as the people that look like they're dogs?
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It is.
And what the heck is with so do you think there's actually a concept to that people that are attracted to certain dogs or vice versa?
Yeah, I
And
think
it has some-
it's an energy thing, and I think that it has to do with they may not see the dog the same way you see the dog
right.
because of their perception, their energy, their everything. And so they may not even realize that they're picking something that looks like them. They're picking something that has meaning and is familiar to them.
Mm.
And so, yeah.
But isn't that interesting, Elizabeth, that we all see that, right?
Mhm.
To some extent, not every time, but I never thought of how that would come about, but that energy part is what is part of that, I guess.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
So it's almost to the